Happy WrestleMania weekend, everybody. Let's find out what you guys asked the Phoenix. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your pre-WrestleMania edition of Ask the Phoenix. I want to put a quick little note in. You've got, I'm filming this on Friday morning. You got one more day to get your picks in for the pay-per-view pick 'em. It's the immediate previous video to this video, if you're watching it this weekend. If you're watching it later on, then I don't know what to tell you. Check out the playlists for the NXT reviews, the 205 reviews. Check out my Off the Cuff series, talking to Kristen and Guapo. I've got a couple more ideas for Off the Cuff coming pretty damn soon. And check the playlist for the previous Ask the Phoenix videos as well. Thank you to all of you who are participating in this one. If this is your first time checking out this particular series and you want your questions asked, or answered rather, put them down in the box below. I don't know whether I'm going to keep doing this in 2-month increments, or whether I'm just going to do them before the big four. Like I'm doing this before WrestleMania. I did one before the Royal Rumble. I might do one before SummerSlam. I'm going to make that decision at a later date. I have to apologize. Not that any of you guys tune in to look at me, but my camera is doing a thing where everything is really super dark, except for the shiny, shiny top of my head, which is also awesome for all of you, I'm sure. I don't know if that's going to translate on the actual video or not, but if it does, and if it looks strange, and if you're put off by it, like I say, open up another video, do something else, listen to me like it's a podcast. I don't really know what else to tell you. As I said, thank you to those that are participating in this one. My screen's being slow, so if I gotta do one of these, I'm sorry about that, but it is what it is. The Wrestling Bear says, is this Mania the best hyped WrestleMania we've had in years? I think it's the opposite. I think it's the best WrestleMania card we've had in a while, and it's probably been hyped the worst. As far as things that we wanted, we're getting the revamp of the Cruiserweight division. We're getting, you know, the guys have a Battle Royal, so now the women have a Battle Royal. We've got, if you include the Rousey situation, we've got 4 women's matches on the WrestleMania card, plus a pretty damn good one coming up on TakeOver as well. You know, people are pissed off that we're getting Roman versus Lesnar, but hey, you're also getting Styles versus Nakamura, the feud that we like with the Usos and the New Day. We've thrown the Bludgeon Brothers in the mix, which I could take or leave. But I mean, again, take a look at the TakeOver card. We're getting the long-awaited Gargano versus Ciampa. We're getting finally we're getting a second-tier title in NXT, which I consider part of WrestleMania weekend, if you're wondering. I don't know. I know what you're saying. Am I hyped for WrestleMania? Yes. But has WWE done a good job of hyping it up? No. Which is sad, because the card is great. Yeah, sorry, I sound like shit as usual. Should Ronda Rousey be the one to end Asuka's streak? No. Gonna throw out a little bit of a hot take here. I know not a lot of people are going to agree with me on this one. I think Asuka's streak should be lost to Charlotte this Sunday. I think Charlotte should be the one to take the streak. She should go on and just plow through the roster for a year. Maybe halfway through the year she gets drafted to Raw, plows through that roster, take a couple open challenges from a couple, like, choice people from NXT. I think you get Charlotte versus Rousey next year. I know everybody else wants it the other way around. They want Asuka to be undefeated, take the title from Charlotte, carry it for a year, and fight Rousey. But I'm sort of looking at it from the opposite end of that coin. Will Andrade Cien Almas be a bust on the main roster? He'll be a bust on the main roster if they do what they did with Alberto Del Rio. Side note, the rumor that Alberto Del Rio is coming back, I want to see Alberto Del Rio versus Andrade Cien Almas. I think that'll be great. Alberto Del Rio was at the house show that I was at not too long ago at Destiny, and even though he was introduced as El Patron, all his ring gear still had the ADR initials on it, which made me chuckle quite a bit, I'm not going to lie. What they did with Del Rio is what they do with a lot of the luchadors, is they really lean on the, okay, here comes Alberto Del Rio, he's our Mexican guy. They don't do that with Andrade Cien Almas as much. I mean, yeah, he comes out and he cuts his promos that aren't in English, and he's got the Spanish Trish Stratus and Selena Vega with him. But they don't really lean on that. They leaned on his story. He came in and he was like the flashy party type guy, and then he sort of went downhill, became full of himself. You know, he was the character that didn't. He was. I always bagged on him for it. He was the wrestling character that didn't give a crap about wrestling. And then Zelina Vega came in, slapped some sense into him, and now he's, you know, this killing machine on NXT. I predicted that he's going to keep his title on Saturday, by the way. If they keep that, if they keep not, you know, being, I don't know how to say this, don't make him Jinder Mahal, in the sense of, like, Jinder Mahal, you throw him out there as, here's our big Indian guy. Great Khali, here's our big Indian guy. Even Cesaro, like, here's our Swiss guy, you know. Sheamus, all his moves are named after Irish things. You know why they don't fail with Finn Balor is they don't constantly put him out there as, hey, here's another Irish guy. They put him out here as, here's this fantastic guy from the Bullet Club, from the Balor Club, whatever. You know, he's got the, you know, the rock star douchebag, and he's got the other half of him, which is the demon. They don't wrap him in an Irish flag before they throw him out there. And as long as they don't do that with Andrade Cien Almas, I think he'll be great. You guys know me. I didn't give a shit about him when he first started, and now I'm a really big fan of his. It's happening with a lot of guys in NXT right now. Should Daniel Bryan be a part-timer or a full-timer? I kind of feel, and please don't take this as an insult, I kind of feel like this is a moot point, because there's no way they're going to give Daniel Bryan a full-time schedule. They're just not. They're going to have him in for the key shows, which is awesome, because it's going to boost their numbers, and it's going to boost their ratings, and it's going to get a great fan reaction and whatnot. It is kind of shit, because you know there's a lot of other people, you know, within the roster that would have had those slots if Daniel Bryan hadn't come back. Let me be clear, and I'll be clear like I was during the WrestleMania preview video. I am ridiculously happy for Daniel Bryan. He's achieved something pretty monstrous by working his ass off, coming back from a concussion, you know, doing the oxygen pressure treatments or whatever the hell he was doing. Really, really cool. Really cool personal victory for him. Really great to see him back in the ring. Really, why are we dinging? Why is this a thing? This is why I don't do videos during the day, guys. This is why I'm always doing videos at ridiculous o'clock, because if I do them during the day, I get shit like that. You know, it's really great that I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do videos and I'm going to talk about the Daniel Bryan silly kicks. Oh, yes. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to get a lot of great matches out of him, but the shitty deal of that is, you know, say he takes up a key spot at WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, like the big four. You know, that's a spot that could have gone to, you know, the SummerSlam spot might have gone to Cesaro, or, you know, the Survivor Series slot might have gone to somebody like a Sami Zayn or whatever. Like, all the spots, all the key spots in the year that they would have, you know, parsed out to various people in the roster are all going to go to Daniel Bryan, because we love him. And, you know, the fans want to see him, and anything you put Daniel Bryan in, people are going to watch, which is great from a sales point of view, and great from a Daniel Bryan fan point of view, and great from a performance point of view, but it's not going to be great for, I predict it's not going to be very great for the morale in the locker room. Nobody will say it. Everybody will put a smile on and welcome Daniel Bryan back, as they should, but other people are going to lose in that scenario. Should he be a part-timer or a full-timer? He's going to be a part-timer, and that makes the most sense, because the other thing at the end of the day is he's come back from all the stuff that he's come back from. Any minute now, he could hurt himself again. And that's the other downfall to this whole scenario. Like we've heard ad nauseum, the conditions of him coming back, he has to go and basically have a checkup after every match, after every show that he's on, which makes more than enough sense. He's going to be a part-timer, and that makes the most sense. Even if he could be a full-timer at this point, I don't think I would want him to be. There's a very long-winded answer for you. Thank you to the Wrestling Bear. Going back to the usual suspects, Charzan93, a.k.a. Cheney815. For the special occasion of WrestleMania, I'm bumping the limit up to 15 questions. That's cool. For those of you that have been watching for a long time, you guys know that I used to not give a shit how many questions you gave me, and then some smart ass came and gave me 100. Zohan, I think I'm looking at you. So then I narrowed it down to 10, which was fine. I sort of loosened up on the 10, but I've kind of said, you know, be reasonable, you know, because I say, hey, I don't care if you guys give me 100 questions and you send me 99. Some of them are going to be missed. Some of them are going to be lost in the shuffle. So please be reasonable, send me some questions if you've got them. Don't just fill an entire comment section to say, hey, look, I sent 100 questions, because that gets it gets a little, it's a little off the mark, is all I'm going to say about that. For the special occasion of WrestleMania, I'm bumping my limit up to 15. Do you think the following should have main evented their WrestleMania debuts? Ric Flair at 8, sure. Diesel, no. Chris Jericho, no. At 16, at WrestleMania 2000, no. Alberto Del Rio is the only one here that I could really make a case for, because there are those that have the belief that if you win the Royal Rumble, you should be in the main event, which means the last match. And he wasn't. I believe he was in the opener with Edge that year. But I mean, 27 gave me the best main event of all time with The Miz and John Cena with The Rock's interference, and The Miz beating John Cena for the WWE Championship, which I don't think anybody but me appreciates. Sting at 31, absolutely not. That was a one and done. That was... The Sting thing with Triple H was almost tantamount to a celebrity match. So if that had been the main event, I would have been really sad. Speaking of debuting main eventers, Job Team Barry debuting main eventers edition, Sergeant Slaughter, Sid, Yokozuna. I would bury Sergeant Slaughter, I would team with Yokozuna, and I would job to Psycho Sid, because, you know, you got a guy that's willing to break his shin in a match, you know, he's probably going to kick your ass. Since all the belts were being defended, do you think the Usos should have defended the SmackDown Tag Team titles last year? I want to say yes, but at the same time, I like what they're doing with it this year. I like the fact that, you know, they're coming out, they're showing all kinds of respect to the New Day, and, you know, we're your friends, we show you respect and all that. But we've been here for X amount of years and we've never gotten on the WrestleMania card, and, you know, that's what's driving us right now. Was it a bad step back then? Yes. Do I think they are taking that bad step and using it productively this year? Yes. So, in retrospect, I wouldn't change it. After rewatching the first WrestleMania, I wonder how come nobody brings up the fact that the very first WrestleMania match ended in a submission. Tito Santana defeated the Executioner via the figure 4 leg lock. Because it's one of the two options. I think it would be a more interesting bit of trivia if the first WrestleMania match had been a disqualification or a countout or a no contest. That would be an interesting bit of trivia. The fact that you got two different ways you can win. You can win by pin or you can win by submission. I don't think the fact that it was by submission necessarily matters. Now, if you take a look at something like the first ever women's Money in the Bank match was won by a dude, that will stick out. If you take a look at the WrestleMania 25 Women's Battle Royal was won by a dude. It was by Santino Marella. That's something that sticks out as being odd, as being out of the ordinary. Somebody winning their match by submission instead of pinfall, I don't think sticks out as a... I don't know. I don't think it's a piece of trivia that people stick their teeth into. While we're on the subject, do you think that was the catalyst for the WrestleMania's ending in 0 wow, I really fucked that up. While we're on the subject, do you think that was the catalyst for ending WrestleMania's ending in 0 with somebody tapping out? Like 30. I mean, it's probably a coincidence. I mean, my thoughts on WrestleMania 30 and the Daniel Bryan Cena-ing over everybody notwithstanding, I gotta think that that's a coincidence. I don't think that's something that's consciously done. I think after the fact, they might go back and be like, oh, look at all the WrestleManias that end in zeros ended in submission. But I don't think that's something they were doing at the time. Do you pronounce it 17 or X7? WWE loves their Roman numerals sometimes. When they mix the Roman numerals with the regular numbers for WrestleMania X7 and X8, which I was at, which we're going to talk about in a second, I've pronounced it both ways. X7 rolls off the tongue. X8, not so much. WrestleMania 18. I've pronounced it both ways. I know there's a lot of people that pronounce it X7 just to make fun of, as I say, WWE's use of the Roman numerals. Since Rollins and Reigns have already done it, how would you book Dean Ambrose winning the main event of WrestleMania? Dean Ambrose ain't going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, bruh. I'm just saying. Dean Ambrose, people were losing favor with him before he got injured. I think... I don't think he's going to be in a main event picture for a while. I think you're going to get another... when he gets back, we're going to think that the Shield's getting back together and one of them's going to turn again. It'll either be him turning on the Shield, or him teaming with one of them when he gets back, or going, I'm sorry, going for a mid-card title. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the main event for quite a while. In regards to all the people talking about wanting a pay-per-view in Europe, the UK, Asia, Japan, etc., what do you think about WrestleMania being held in Australia, South Africa, South America, Brazil, etc.? You guys know I don't travel very often. I mean, I traveled down to the States to hang out with Steffi Sunshine a couple years ago. And I might go to WrestleMania next year, seeing as it's in New York and that's not too far from me. I'm not a big traveler, so I don't know a lot about these places. We go to the UK, and WWE gets a very specific reaction when they're in the UK, especially NXT, so they know that reaction. I think it would be interesting because because there's so many Japanese stars coming over and making a big name for them in the WWE here, it would be really interesting to see how a pay-per-view would do in Japan. Africa, South America, Brazil, I have no idea. Australia would be kind of cool because we've had a lot of people from Australia in the past little while. I think one of the Blake and Murphy tag team are from Australia. Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, I think, are from Australia. Emma, although she's not in the company anymore, so that might be, you might get a "Where's Emma" chant or something like that. Australia could be fun. I have friends that have been to Australia. They talk about what a kick-ass place it is. I actually had a friend that went to school there for a brief time and talked about what a kick-ass place it is. So I wouldn't be against it, but I don't have enough world knowledge to know what would make that a good or a different show. I mean, WWE's spreading all over the world. They had the UK title. They're supposedly getting a UK show in like 2019 or 2020, so they are spreading around the world to get it out of that like North American hub, even though they just created a North American title, which is great. Should 13 be considered a precursor to the Attitude Era? I don't know. I think when was it? Was WrestleMania 14 that I think Austin winning the title at WrestleMania from Shawn Michaels at 14, the WrestleMania that was subtitled X-rated, or X-rated, rated with a D, sort of catalyzed the Attitude Era. I don't know. Everybody's got a different idea of when the Attitude Era started, so it's a very hard point to make. If the streak never ended at 30 by Lesnar, but WrestleMania at 33, how fast do you think it would take for every wrestling fan around the world to shit their pants? I mean, the thing is, with the push of Roman Reigns, we were shitting our pants about him beating The Undertaker before he did it. So if he was getting the same push he got now, we would have gone into that WrestleMania with even more of a sense of doom and gloom because the streak was still intact. But I want to believe that if the streak was still intact, I don't think they would have put him with him right away. I'm surprised they didn't put him there to be the guy that picks up the pieces immediately the year after the streak was broken. But that's just me. Am I the only one suspicious about WWE pulling an 18-second on Styles versus Nakamura that they did with Sheamus and Bryan at 28? No, because I don't think... I mean, Sheamus is shown what a charismatic, fun character he can be now, but back then, I don't think anybody cared about Sheamus, and the thing at 28 just pissed everybody off. Whereas there's a balance right now. I truly do believe, on some level, Vince doesn't watch the indies, supposedly. Vince doesn't watch, New Japan, supposedly. But you gotta believe that there's a balance. The real wrestling fans are getting Styles versus Nakamura so that we will shut up about Roman and Lesnar a bit. So WWE offering that trade, I don't think they would offer us that trade and then pull it back by making it a 10-second match. I did joke around on one of OKFabe's streams. By the way, go check out OKFabe. He's a really good dude. I did joke that Lesnar versus... I was going to say Lesnar versus Goldberg. I actually saw that in Toronto, Survivor Series. It was good. Lesnar versus Roman, I joked that it should be the finger poke of doom, because that would kill everybody, and it would just be really, really fucked. Anyways, Job Team Barry edition, never won a WrestleMania edition. Bruno Sammartino, Bray Wyatt, and Sting. Team with Bruno, Job to Bray, Barry, Sting, because he already kind of got buried in the whole Triple H, DX, NWO, even though that didn't make sense, that whole garbage. Thoughts on WrestleMania 6? It happened. I'm not going to pull up a WrestleMania 6 fight card right now and do a review of it. Might do something like that. Might do requests like that sometime later on down the line. And number 15, not just asking because you were there, but how would you rebook WrestleMania 18 or X8? The only thing I would do is swap the two main events. Because I do think, because Rock and Hogan was there, and Rock and Hogan was awesome, I can tell you, because I was there, and it was awesome, the pop was fucking fantastic. You can't even tell. If you watch it on TV, you see the pop that Hogan gets in that match. But I will say, and this is typical of a fan that was actually at a show versus on TV, literally what you see on TV when Hogan comes out does that pop no justice. But unfortunately, because of that, you get a lot of people either shitting on or completely forgetting the Triple H versus Jericho match, which was, in its own right, a fantastic match. And I think everybody was coming down from Rock and Hogan, which is really unfortunate because nobody, especially on the night, nobody really gave that match the attention that it deserved. I would have flipped those two. I would have had the title match first, and I would have had Rock and Hogan main event. Now, you would have had at the time people saying, well, you know, Triple H versus Jericho is the title, it should be the main event. But kind of like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, it's just bigger. It's just bigger than the title. Some matches are bigger than the title. Hogan versus Rock, you know, it was the actual once in a lifetime as opposed to Rock and Cena, which is just, you know, twice in a lifetime. And then they tagged up against Awesome Truth, and that was fucking terrible. And that gave way to me doing the Cenapocalypse video. So if you're new to the channel, go into the little search thing up there, look up my Cenapocalypse video. It's fucking good. Thank you, Cheney815. And lastly, we have the Zohan. He says, I got 15 questions for you this month. Hope you're doing okay, and happy WrestleMania weekend. Happy WrestleMania weekend to you too, buddy. Should Dean Ambrose have turned on the Shield instead of Seth Rollins? Maybe. Because he's more of the loner type character, not to make a pun on the Baron Corbin thing, but he is more the lone wolf-ish character, and there is something to be said about aesthetic, because you know what people wear when they wrestle doesn't really matter, but when you've got Roman, who's in somewhat of a wrestling gear, Rollins, who's definitely in wrestling gear, and you got Ambrose, who comes out in basically a shirt and jeans, it doesn't matter, but you know, like I say, aesthetically pleasing to the eye. There's something to be said about the guys that wear, like, regular street clothes. Even John Cena falls into this category. R-Truth falls into this category. The Usos, back when they had their stupid plastic pants, fit into this category. Just to look at a group and to have the one odd guy out. And again, like, he's more of a brawler. Roman Reigns, although nobody likes him, although nobody will call him the best wrestler ever, is a wrestler and can wrestle. Seth Rollins is an awesome wrestler and can wrestle. His match with Balor and Miz on Sunday is probably going to be one of the best matches of the night. Ambrose was the odd one out in pretty much every way you could look at it, so it could have been good. More people like Ambrose, or sorry, more people liked Ambrose than Rollins, I think, at the time, so it would have been hard to press him off as a heel, but it could have been good. Did it bother you that Dean Ambrose went on to feud with Seth Rollins while Roman Reigns didn't really seem to care that his friend had turned on them? Should the Shield triple threat have happened sooner due to Reigns' involvement with the field? Logically, yes. But as far as WWE is concerned, they wanted to break this faction. They wanted to make Roman a singles guy, so they had to dissolve this group of three, have two characters cancel each other out, so that we can legitimize throwing Roman into title match after title match after title match after title match. How did the following losses hurt each respective career? CM Punk losing to Triple H at Night of Champions 2011. No, because A, Punk was over as hell. You know, he was Teflon, everything rolled right off him, and losing to Triple H helped him in the fact that his whole babyface persona was, you know, the rebel standing up against the authority, constantly put down by the man, etc. Dean Ambrose losing to Bray Wyatt at TLC match, yeah, the match was kind of silly, and they were kind of on equal par with each other, and Bray Wyatt has sort of lost everything since then, so... And Dean Ambrose is going home and banging Renee Young at the end of the day, so who's really... Oh, actually, Bray Wyatt's going home and banging JoJo. I think we're going to call that one a tie. Bray Wyatt losing to Cena at WrestleMania 30, yeah. Baron Corbin losing to Jinder Mahal on Smackdown in 2017 with the failed cash-in. I will say that hurt him. Not because it's Jinder Mahal, which is what most people are going to say, oh my god, how'd you lose to Jinder Mahal? Well, Jinder Mahal was the fucking champion at the time. Whether you like him or not, and I didn't, losing to the champion ain't necessarily a bad thing. Just the fact that he looked like an idiot doing it. And that wasn't about him having a title shot. That was about John Cena making him look like an idiot. And I don't think... There's nobody that won in that scenario, because John Cena, who's supposed to be the big bad babyface, looked really petty in that scenario. Baron Corbin looked like a failure. Jinder Mahal looked like a champion that couldn't, that couldn't do it without John Cena's help. And again, you got John Cena helping Jinder Mahal. What kind of sense did that make? Should WWE introduce more free agents apart from Cena and The Undertaker? No. And there's a reason. Cena and The Undertaker are in a category that I've talked about a lot. They're in the same category as The Rock and Triple H and Kurt Angle, whereas they may still wrestle, they may be part of the roster, but they exist kind of above the title, above the roster. Anybody else on that show, and I'm including Daniel Bryan, even though he's a part-timer, we realistically want to see going for a title at some point. So, no. I don't think there's anybody, even Daniel Bryan, I'm sorry for the Daniel Bryan marks out there. Daniel Bryan isn't John Cena. Daniel Bryan, by far and wide, a better wrestler than John Cena. But as far as the way WWE perceives him, the fact that, he's doing WWE and going out and doing other things representing WWE, and, he's going out in Hollywood representing WWE like The Rock did. He's going out and he's doing the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards representing WWE, kind of like The Rock used to. He's doing all the charity and shit. And I'm sure Daniel Bryan does as well. Don't get me wrong. But anybody that you still realistically want to think that's crawling towards a title should be on a roster. Also, and this might kind of include Daniel Bryan, you'll notice that all the ones that are considered free agents are hardly ever there, which means they're held in reserve by WWE. Okay, SmackDown needs a little bit of a boost. We'll throw John Cena over there for a couple of weeks. Okay, Raw needs a boost right before WrestleMania. We'll drop Undertaker in. The SmackDown's got an anniversary show coming up, so we'll book a marquee match. Elias will take on The Rock. They're used as little, defibrillator paddles. They are not the heartbeats anymore, and that's why they have to sort of be plug and play. Daniel Bryan should be on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan should say, you know what, I've been overseeing this brand for a while, now I want to go for this brand's gold. And it should be the same for anybody. I don't think crossing over helps anybody that's a full-timer, because you're on this brand, you have this particular goal. If you're on this brand, you have this particular goal. Now, you have stuff like the draft coming up, which is fine, because that's a one-off throughout the year. You have stuff like the Royal Rumble this year, where you got to choose which champion you were going for. Now, that's a built-in storyline reason for somebody to move over. But say Asuka defeats Charlotte at SmackDown for the SmackDown title this Sunday at SummerSlam. She's not going, or WrestleMania, sorry. She beats Charlotte. She becomes the SmackDown champion. She's not going to walk out on Raw with that title, because she's not a free agent, she's made a move. Carmella, if she was to cash in on Alexa Bliss, would be making a move. Somebody gets drafted, makes a move. They're still only in one spot. And I mean, Cena is an anomaly, and Undertaker is almost irrelevant at this point. I hate to say it, but it is. So no, very, very long-winded answer, no. Thoughts on the rumored potential MMA fight between Floyd Mayweather and CM Punk? I don't know enough about MMA to really comment on how good a match that would be. I mean, just because it's CM Punk, I'm going to be back in CM Punk, but I don't... Mayweather's a boxer, I don't know anything about boxing. Punk's trying his hand in MMA, I don't know anything about MMA. These are not my fields of entertainment, so I don't have an opinion to give. Thoughts on WWE potentially having 2 WrestleManias in 1 year, as the Melbourne Cricket Ground Show, capacity 100,000 people in Australia, is rumored to carry the same name. I wish they would give it a different name. I do. I mean, call it something corny, do it like Aussie Mania or something like that. I know they're doing the Greatest Royal Rumble at the end of April. in Saudi Arabia, which is huge. I mean, that's a brand new, huge market for them. It's going to be a fantastic show, from what I've heard. 50-man Royal Rumble, etc. But I wish they weren't calling it the Royal Rumble. Still have a Rumble match on the card, but call it Saudi Mania or Saudi Rumble or Arabian Mania or Arabian Nights or some bullshit. I mean, Royal Rumble's the Royal Rumble. WrestleMania is WrestleMania. WrestleMania is already rumored in the next couple of years to be a 2-day event, which is another thing I'm wholeheartedly against. When Steve... Should Eddie Guerrero have won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 20 instead of No Way Out the previous month? If so, would Goldberg have still been... Would Lesnar have still been the champion dropping the belt at WrestleMania, or would you have booked a different title match altogether? Well, Lesnar Goldberg. Who did Lesnar fight? He fought Angle at Mania, right? Which is probably a better match. But they had that big friendship moment between Guerrero and Benoit. If they both won their titles in the same night, that would have been a bit on the nose. To have the friends there, to have the one friend that was already champion giving the pep talk to the one that was about to become champion, and to see them at the end, one having successfully retained and one having just won. I think it made it better because Guerrero's story was that everybody, or, storyline-wise, everybody thought him beating Lesnar was a fluke. And he had to prove them wrong. Benoit's story was nobody thought he could win the big one, and he proved them wrong. Now, if you weren't having the Lesnar-Goldberg story, Goldberg would not have come in and cost Lesnar the match, and Eddie Guerrero wouldn't have become champion anyway. So if you take out any one of those stories, the other one doesn't happen. So I'm okay with it. I get what you're saying, to have those two friends side by side. And I know we don't talk about Benoit that much, but it is a cool moment for Benoit. Benoit beat two of the best in the company in one night. Not like Daniel Bryan, who did it over 3, but same thing. I don't know. Eddie Guerrero, simply for Guerrero's point of view, to have his big final moment on the big stage probably would have been cooler for him. As a fan watching and following the stories, I don't have a problem with the way they did it whatsoever. If Rock hadn't left the WWE in 2005, whose push would have suffered the most? Randy Orton, Batista, or John Cena? Probably Batista, because he was the least pushed out of the three of them anyway. I mean, we see where they are now, right? And Orton's a champion right now. Cena's about to, face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and Batista's, Batista changed vocations. Batista's like the Cena, the Rock, the CM Punk, etc. He's off, making a big success of himself doing the Marvel stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy, doing the whole Drax deal, which is also amazing. But as far as in-ring, who came out on the short end of that stick, like, the question kind of answers itself. If Shawn Michaels didn't retire in 2010, how would that have affected the subsequent pushes of the Nexus, CM Punk, The Miz in coming years? Nexus was shit anyway, so I'm probably going to say Nexus would have fallen off the map. Do you believe Daniel Bryan will over main event another WrestleMania? Yeah. If you ask me, build Daniel Bryan up. Sorry guys, my nose is itchy as hell. It's very, very dry here. It's very cold and it's very dry, so there's a lot of this, and I'm sorry about that. If you ask me, the two main events for next year that we could already pencil in right now would be Charlotte versus Rousey and Bryan versus Styles. Now, everybody will disagree with me on that. Everybody else will say that we need Asuka versus Rousey and Nakamura versus Bryan, but I disagree wholeheartedly. Why do you believe WWE has only done one cage match in the 34 years of WrestleMania? Visibility. Visibility. If you look at cage matches, if you look at Hell in the Cell matches, if you look at Elimination Chamber, Punjabi Prison, anything else you want to get, for us watching it on TV, it's a great visual spectacle. Being in an arena, I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, I'm not going to lie, but it was the one where the McMahons took on DX and the Big Show was involved somehow. It's very, very hard to see what's going on live through a cage, especially, when you had the big old school blue cages where the bars were like this far apart, you could still see what was going on, no problem, because everything now is chain link and it's so close together. If you're at a live event trying to watch Hell in the Cell, it's very, very hard to get a visual. And if you picture WrestleMania, the farther back you go, the big, huge arenas, the farther back you're sat, people are just going to be looking at a big gray cube for 20 minutes, and it's not going to be something drawing. I won't lie to you, if the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view ever came to Toronto, I don't know whether I'd go or not. I'm sure the show would be great, and it would be cool to have a pay-per-view in Toronto again, because we haven't had one since Survivor Series. But I don't know if Hell in the Cell is one I need to cross off my bucket list. I do need to cross off a SummerSlam and a Royal Rumble, but I don't know if I need to cross Hell in the Cell off my bucket list at all. Which one of these once-planned matches would you have wanted to see? Hulk Hogan versus Bret Hart or Randy Savage versus Shawn Michaels? See, I would rather see Randy Savage versus Bret Hart, because I think that would be a better match. And I would rather see Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan, but that being said... Sorry, there's kids running around upstairs. That being said, we did get Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan way too late in both of their careers, so I sort of... Hogan versus Bret would have been alright, I guess. I mean, we saw Hogan and Bret together in the NWO for a while in WCW, which was awkward, and Randy Savage and Shawn Michaels would sort of be the battle of the diving elbows, wouldn't it? I mean, that's how I would book it, because I'm cheesy like that. It's highly known that most WCW legends didn't participate in the invasion angle because of the large contracts issued by Turner Broadcasting guaranteeing them paychecks to stay home. With that being said, does WWE get too much criticism for the failure of the invasion angle, and is WCW more to blame? You could say that people are a little harder on WWE for the angle sucking because of the talent that they had to deal with, but you didn't need to do an invasion right away. They didn't need to make it a story. I will agree that the fact that the last thing we ever saw on a Monday Nitro was Shane McMahon was a kick in the nuts. That was Vince McMahon saying, I just bought you, look at my massive cock. Big birds, and that's how WCW ended. That's really sad. Tony Schiavone, if you go back and you watch the last episode of Nitro, he's trying to say a heartfelt goodbye to the fans, and it literally gets cut off for the Shane and Vince segment to sell their match at that year's upcoming WrestleMania. I don't think they needed to do the whole Shane bought WCW. I mean, they could have, just bought it quietly and slowly brought, because they brought over characters anyway. They brought over Jericho and made a big deal of it. They brought over the Radicals, which, some of them succeeded and some of them failed. They could have just gradually kept introducing people to the roster and waited out the contracts of, the Goldbergs and the Hogans and people of that nature. They could have done the revenge of WCW a year or so later. You could have seen all these people become really integrated with the WWE roster to the point where we didn't even see them as WCW guys anymore, and then there could have been a random attack on some random person, and they could have waited it out. So WWE decided to do it right away, and with the limited talent that they were able to use at the time, no, you can't blame them for it coming off shitty because they didn't have anything to work with. You can blame them for not waiting until they did have something to work with. Two sides of the same coin on that one. Steve Austin feuding with Booker T in January 2002. I thought their feud kind of ended at the 2002 Royal Rumble when Austin eliminated Booker T. The two never got to have a one-on-one pay-per-view match. Should Stone Cold Steve Austin have wrestled Booker T at WrestleMania 18, or were you fine with the Austin versus Hall and the Booker T versus Edge? There's a whole lot that goes into that. To the best of my knowledge, Austin versus Hall only happened because Austin versus Hogan didn't happen. Austin versus Hogan didn't happen because, supposedly, neither one of them would lose to the other one. So, cool moment for The Rock, I guess. Booker T versus Edge was a rivalry based on a shampoo commercial, and that's all you really need to say about that. I don't know, Booker T's had some weird ones at WrestleMania. I always love hearing the people debating the Booker T Triple H at Mania because they want to say that Triple H is racist because he said, oh, somebody like you shouldn't be champion, and people always translate that into, oh, you're judging him because he's black. And it's like, if you follow the story, they're like, no, they're saying that he shouldn't win the title because he has a criminal past. But, you know, the WWE fan base and the world in general just wants to find reasons to be upset, and it is what it is. If you want any more examples of that, just look at my Twitter feed, for God's sake. Austin versus Hall happened because Austin and Hogan couldn't get along, and Booker T versus Edge was thrown together, like I say, over a shampoo commercial. And I think, I could be wrong, but I do believe at that year's WrestleMania, there's actually somebody holding up a sign that says they're fighting over shampoo. Which is great. Which is, like, you know, early wrestling fan trolling, which is fucking wonderful. By the way, if you're going to WrestleMania, and you feel like shouting out your boy, I would appreciate a Spaz Phoenix sign at WrestleMania or at TakeOver. Do it at TakeOver because you're more likely to be seen. But I commented on that the other night with Guapo and Kristen because they were actually going. So let me take this moment to say I hope that I believe it's Black Cat Feline, Guapo, Johnny Thunder, if anybody remembers him, Monoxide, I think Suave is also going. So to all of you that are at WrestleMania, I hope you're having a great time. I'm pretty sure you're already down in Nolans, because it's almost lunchtime on a Friday. Don't know what your travel plans were, but I hope you're all having a great time. The rest of you, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're having a great WrestleMania weekend. If you want to have your questions or comments or whatever read in the next Q&A, which may or may not be around SummerSlam, throw them down in the box below, and I will happily answer them to the best of my ability. Until then, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys. Freak like me.